I'm live inside of the studio. Dutty Bookman, Tried and True, Revelations of a Rebellious Youth is the name of the book. Interesting, exciting conversation here with Dutty Bookman. And trust me, you know, when I read this book, it actually reminds me of our youth. When I say our, those of us who were like Uno, I tell Broto all the while, you know, the whole of Uno remind me of my generation. The generation that came after me didn't necessarily remind me of us at all. But you see, Uno, and you know, as Jah would have it, our is Uno, it's our picnic, you know. Yeah. It's same age group, everything, you know. Yeah. So it's no wonder why. Let me give you a little tune. Jana.
Bless and sanctify, O Most High. Highly meditation with this collie on my brain. Steaming Sensinia's most potent native strain. Absorption of the essence frees most every mental chain. Concentrate, then dehydrate, then load it up again and get taken up into the celestial sweetest high that you could never find. Vapor soaking.
The young man with a very interesting name, Dutty Bookman, is my guest here on Heart, Mind, and Soul to Soul. Another quotation from this book, Tried and True. And this one says, I felt like being at the fire base, where I did not generally visit on many Sundays. On that occasion, Black Kush, Mama G, and Janine were there, and I was partaking in a steam chalice, which contained a particular agreeable strain of herbs. Soon, I was reading the clouds and saw what appeared to be a crescent moon. It struck me as noteworthy because I usually saw faces. Then, at nearly that exact moment, a random thought flew into my mind. I am Dutty Bookman, the same man who started the Haitian Revolution is me. Tell me about that mystic moment.
Well, as you read it, you know, you see my eyes closed. I'm really, you transport me right back there to Windward Road area there where we're at fire, you know, fire base is what I call the Uprising Roots band home, you know. Blessings to them because they really, you know, a lot of things for me spiritually began there.
Right.
And there was a fire that was ongoing, you know, a literal fire, you know, surrounded by stones and constantly fed wood for months on end. It never died day or night. And I would just go there just the meds and really, you know, seek counsel from the fire itself, you know, to speak to the fire inside of me. And, you know, I learned a lot in that process. And so it was that day we were steaming some, as I said, agreeable strain of herb. It was very agreeable. and you know, I just reached to this heights where I never reached before. And even my physical vision started, it was almost picturesque. It was almost like somebody painted the environment around me. I was really enjoying that vibe, you know. I was at peace. I was feeling very good. And I read the clouds a lot as signs. They give me signs, you know. Birds give me signs. A lot of things give me signs. And on that day, it was a really vivid image of a crescent moon, which later became significant on the journey. But that day, you know, it just flew into my mind that I am Dutty Bookman. I am the same spirit that walked the earth in that time. Everything I've ever known about him, I would do exactly the same in that time and space. And I just knew it, like, this man is back again. And I am helping to bring forth that spirit. I am bringing back his spirit.
Why the change of the name spelling?
Because he was originally a slave in Jamaica. This is in the 18th century, you know, 1700s. And his name was Bookman, Bookman, Dutty. So either Bookman Dutty or Dutty Bookman. They were
That's not how he spelled his name.
No, he spelled it B-O-O-K in Jamaica.
Okay.
But then he was sold to somebody in Haiti.
Oh.
And because they speak French, the way they spell things is kind of different. So it was spelled B-O-U-K-M-A-N.
Gotcha.
And that's when he instigated the Haitian Revolution. So he was actually really a Jamaican, a voodoo priest. You know, so he was on a certain kind of spiritual level and commanded respect. And he instigated the revolution. And because I have never been to Haiti, and I felt very familiar with the Jamaican situation in these times, I wanted to honor his Jamaican name, spelling.
Beautiful.
With B-O-O-K.
Right. Interesting. And you know, the book is it just follows chronologically, it follows logically, and it really is a testament of a youth going. You see, y'all, when you talk about the Three Kings gates, the gates where the
Three Lions.
Three Lions.
Yes.
That every single one of us who just leave home and testing out this renting, all of us identify with it, you know, because usually we couldn't afford the rent. But we still, rent the house.
Yes. That's definitely what I did.
and then later the landlord kind of work out so you can't afford the house. Yeah. So you know what I'm saying?
Yes, man. That did happen.
It's just so real. It is so vivid. It is so real. All right. We're going soul to soul, right? And I have to talk about the book. I have to quote from the book, right? Mm-hmm. This quotation now is when you, I don't know if you lost the job or you ceased to work on the radio station. So you were a little depressed. And it says here, the fact was that I was becoming very detached from the pulse of things. It did not take long for me to declare the things that I would do, that I would not do instead of the things I would. And I started to focus on my real singular contribution to the revolution that was taking place. I was a writer, not necessarily the organizer or public speaker of my fantasies. I was an adjusted version of the legendary Bookman, the man who was an avid reader. Like him, I had been a modern-day house negro, rubbing shoulders with some of society's so-called distinguished personalities. I found that interesting because I've never met anyone who said them is a house negro. Yeah, everybody a feel slave.
Oh yeah, man. Everybody because feel thing in style. You want to seem like you're in touch with whatever with the people, you know. But I had that illusion as well initially. But it was in this transitional period that I learned to accept myself, and you say, you know what? Even the way I express. I sometimes I cannot understand people who are on the ground and like I need a translator. To tell you the honest truth.
That's what I loved about the book.
Yeah.
You were just so honest.
Yeah.
No, very few people would be this honest, you know. You realize that.
Yes, ma'am.
Especially someone as revolutionary as you. Your dreadlocks, you're revolutionary, and here are you saying, I had been a modern-day house negro, rubbing shoulders with some of society's so-called distinguished personalities. Additionally, I was not only fond of absorbing information, but I was also a highly proficient writer and thus an effective disseminator of information. It was my duty to write the revolution, and so I did. Now, this brought up many questions for me, that whole paragraph. One I spoke of a while ago, the fact that you were just so honest and raw about the fact that, look here, my experience is a house slave negro. All right.
Yes.
The other thing is, why are you speaking a lot of times in the past tense? You're only 20, how much? You're a young man.
Oh, because I wanted to make sure, because I'm recording, I'm recording experiences that happen in space and time. I wanted to make sure that I spoke about those things in the past tense, because by the time I'm writing this book, I'm actually reading back through my journal entries and picking up the vibe and remembering the energy. And so I wanted to keep it in the past tense because I know that I'm constantly learning and growing. And even some of the stuff in the book, I already cringe when I read them because I'm like, I maybe not be that person anymore.
Right.
And I've moved on to another level since that. So I keep it in the past tense so people know that I am capable of changing as well.
Wonderful, beautiful. You know, I'm happy I asked you that. And I'm very happy that that's your response. Because it kind of worried me a bit, but no, I get it very clearly. There's another part in that paragraph that I need to talk about. And it is when you said, I started to focus on my real singular contribution to the revolution, which leads me to ask the question, from your experience, which comes first or which came first? finding your revolutionary responsibilities as a member of a collective force, or finding and concentrating on your singular contribution to the revolution?
Remember, as we spoke about earlier, the way I was brought up, I always had a sense of the different sides to Jamaica. So I think my revolutionary spirit was already instilled in me from birth. I was this person, I thought this way all the time. Now, in terms of my contribution to the revolution, I don't know if I'm going to answer this question exactly the way you asked.
Just free up.
But in terms of my singular contribution, which I identified as writing the history of the revolution, documenting the revolution, that came as a result of being in a collective and trying to do all these things. At first, because we had started Manifesto Jamaica, which is a non-profit that deals with arts and culture to empower youth. And at first, I was the spokesperson. I was the one at the meetings talking on behalf of the organization. And I realized it didn't sit well with me, even though in my fantasy, I was the one up there,
holding up the banner.
Yeah, holding up the banner and being identified as the one who started or whatever. But I realized quickly after the first 1 or 2 meetings we had with in communities that I didn't really want to speak like this. I wanted to write out. I wanted to keep track of the history and write out what happened for future generations to know.
Okay.
And so it was in that process of everybody was working out themselves in that process, in that whole the genesis of Manifesto Jamaica.
Right.
And so that was what I came out with, that I need to just focus on using my writing talent. I was one of the very few who wrote this way and who was keen on documenting this way. And so I said, let me just do it and show what I'm capable of instead of planning how I'm going to contribute. I know this is what I want to do already, so let me just do it. Yeah, man.
Wow.